AI to help us build software at machine speed. We also want strong and meaningful testing and verification. And of course, we don't want governance to slow us down, of course. But can we really have all these three options at the same time? That tension started a fascinating discussion at Beyond Quality. Well, when AI increases the speed of software development, what needs to change in testing, in governance, and the way we assess risks? Welcome to Beyond Quality. And this is an open source community for deeper inquiry. You can find us at beyondquality.org. I'm Maria Toleika, Quality Engineering Leader at Regent.
I'm Vitaly Sharavatov. I'm a developer advocate and researcher at CASE.
And this time, we also have Marina Ditkovska with us, and she's a Senior Director of AI Governance and Quality Engineering at EPAM Systems. Hi, Marina.
Hi, Maria. Hi, Vitaly. Thank you very much for this wonderful possibility to have this discussion because, yes, the problem is in place and we see such a huge amount of AI-generated code. And I'm absolutely sure that if we would continue to use our traditional patterns in testing, we would die, because we would be heavily under the water.
Sure. As a token of appreciation for contributing to the Beyond Quality community, we invite active members to join us on the podcast and discuss the inquiries they create and that they bring to the community. And so if you have a question that's worth exploring deeper and better, then please post an inquiry and join the conversation. Your contribution may spark our next podcast discussion. And next time, you might be the one behind the microphone together with us discussing your inquiry. Well, Marina, could you please briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. So actually, you were absolutely right. I'm Marina Ditkovska. I'm Senior Director at EPAM and I'm Head of AI Governance and Quality Engineering practice in 15 countries. So why we talk about AI governance right now? What is it? We would and why actually the problem that we started to discuss today is such a big headache, I would say. Let me share with you, maybe, if you would allow, a couple of stories from last 2 weeks, absolutely fresh baked. I have a new project right now, and one of our wonderful developers decided to rewrite and wipe code functionality that was previously created by us, the vendor, for more than 4 years. He has done this exercise in 2 weeks. Yes, he's actually 2 in 1. He's a unicorn because he's not only a developer, but he really understands the business process. But right now, when I say right now, I mean today, after our podcast, I would sit together with him and try to build corresponding testing strategy. And it seems to me that it's like a big bang approach right now. We would have something that replace huge code base and black box actually product, because we have limited access to the part that we replace, and we would need to check it properly in order to sunset the previous system. Is it our traditional reality? I would say no. So actually, how can we deal with it? And why I mentioned that couple of stories. I have 3 similar stories during the last 2 weeks. One story is about migration. Oh, we have migrated with online access to OpenAI. Everything in 2 days from one platform to other platform. Please check it right now. And the first problem that we see that developers, I understand that I would open Pandora box right now. They are not doing normal code review. The amount of code is huge. They don't trust this code, but they are not checking this code. And right now, the stress and pressure on testing is absolutely huge. Just to create with AI automated tests, we have tried. We have failed many times because the source is the same and the proofs just inherited. Sorry to be more specific here, I'm talking about unit tests here. They're almost useless in this setup. That is why there are 2 options that we investigate in practice and why we talk about AI governance. From one point of view, we need to find this optimal coverage, how to check that we still can go live. Are we brave enough? Come on, I assume that I was saying the sentence, guys, hold on, even I'm not so brave to do it. So many times during the last couple of weeks, being honest, months, that you cannot even imagine. And I'm from location that is called Ukraine. That is why I assume that I'm brave enough. But with such level of uncertainty, it's a danger zone right now just to ship product as is. That is why we decided to, and Maria mentioned properly, governance, not slow down, but we decided to build governance on the top of AI agent and check that it is still operating properly and is not hallucinating, is not drifting, and still. So it's like our AI developer is still conscious enough to produce good enough results. But can we cover all the gap that is created? That's a huge challenge right now. So
Yes. Okay. I see.
Can I jump in quickly here? I
Yes,
think
sure.
that we are discussing a bit, well, maybe we just misaligned on the term governance, because what you're saying that the speed of development is increasing significantly and traditional testing after, where we are trying to do manual testing or create automated tests based on what developers produced, cannot cope with the speed up of development. This is within the development and testing process. Governance, by definition, in 4 standards that I've researched, is a human system of oversight, accountability, and control. So, in those standards, governance is defined by a set of activities that the governing body, usually the board of directors or VPs, or like someone who is sitting on the very top, who possesses all the economical information, they design a decision-making framework, economical decision-making framework for management and then engineering to use. So that, in your case, governance would be someone on the very top defining risk appetites for the system that you're building, so that within those risk appetites, you, developers, any other managers could make decisions on their own. For instance, one of the possible decisions here would be to pair with developers so that you, your testers, and them, developers, produce both code and tests for the code right from the very start when they're just building the code. This would be a process change done within the governance policy. Because what you are saying, in my opinion, about AI governance is just AI controls, a means to control what developers are doing, what the code is being produced is tested for. So I would like to clarify the definitions first, because what you're describing is about testing application to development, or development with testing collaboration process. Governance is usually an economical decision-making framework put from the very top, from the people who own economical information, the whole of it, to management, so that they can operate within it.
Oh, that's really a great question. All the questions here, because definitely with governance, we all would, I assume, next couple of years, try to align terminology and so on and so on. Let us try to segregate items that we are discussing here. We can slice governance into 5 floors. Let's try it. Maybe even less, but on the top of it, you are absolutely right. We have these people, we have boards, they make decisions. Would we like to have AI in our organization or not? Okay, let's skip this level, yeah? Because actually directly we cannot influence this one. Then let's take the next one. Organizational layer. Exactly. The group of people who build corresponding policies, legacy, exactly economical frameworks that you mentioned. But let's dive a little bit deeper, because the last thing I assume that we actually want to have is to create additional group of people that are creating additional documents. They are putting them in some drawers and nobody actually is using them till the moment when everything is collapsing. Let's go down. Product level, as is. The decision, can we ship this functionality with AI or not? Risk levels. And it's not about people. It's already about ours, yeah, as testers, as business analysts, as product owners, where we started to work with AI agent as is and say, okay, here is a set of risks that we can actually bring with this agent. Because it's not only about good things. It's always AI development would be about risk. Guys, come on, that's kind of common sense here. And when we have this risk layer, let's go even a little bit deeper. Finally, our favorite and beloved stuff. Do we really want to have huge amount of people who are sitting with our developers and so on? No, let's rebuild the structure. And let's operationalize the governance. So how we integrate it in a mechanical way into our software development life cycle, and how, so it's next layer, yeah, so next floor, it's like AI governance building, let's call it so. And here's our zone of responsibility. We already understand the risks, and we start to shape proper SDLC process with technical items, not with people, not with some papers, but actually what should be done, because depending on risks, the governance on the top of this agent, I mean operational governance, would be slightly different. Sometimes, so if you would like to trust your AI agent with your credit card, that's one part of the story. If it's something simple, that's other part of the story. But if you talk about something simple, 2 years ago, it was my story when my AI agent, not mine, but we have deployed it in Sandbox and provided it for our guys to play with it. And then they thing destroyed half of Jira backlog. That is why we talk about risk and operationalization, because no one sitting near to engineer would help us in this situation. And the last and maybe the most important thing from operational point of view is exactly this blast radius and kill switch protocols. Okay, we understand that reality wouldn't be nice. People would wipe code. We cannot educate them. We were not capable to do it for how many years to create good code. Despite all the wonderful books, clean code, and so on, we still see quite, how to say it in a tolerant way, code with a lot of mediocrity. Okay? We have never seen code, I mean, production code without bugs. Yeah? That is why let's take it as basis as our reality to deal with. That is why when I talk about AI governance, I'm not talking about board. I'm talking about these floors where we can build the systems. So you have your AI agent. You, in corresponding prompts, you integrate policies, goals. You build technical guardrails that are dependent on the implementation mechanism. Then, what is a new story that we were dreaming before? And finally, we have observability. What should we measure and track for every AI agent? That is why that risk zone is kind of really interesting story right now, because we need to measure in new reality, not straightforward, just accuracy, for example. Hope no. But how do we deal with different tools? Are we calling APIs that we don't need to call these APIs and so on and so on? It's an art. Then again, I don't want to have huge amount of people just sitting and like, oh, my agent is doing great. Do you remember this semi-automation approach? But we talk about human in the loop, but a very smart way. Your observability should have proper rules like something is not working great here. It smells. Signs of issues. It's like in performance testing. We have SLAs, but come on, what is more important? Trends. So it's not like, oh, everything was great yesterday and everything is bad today. Usually we degrade with every build and then finally we violate SLAs. But the problem started not yesterday. That is why in AI reality, it is the same story. We need to analyze trends and escalate or kill switch protocol. And the question is, with this AI generated code, do we have this kill switch protocol? Do we have this smell that, oh, come on, we have started to generate something that has nothing to do with this code? It was a great example 2 months ago when my colleague was like, I have tried to create Tetris with cursor and it generated me 800 of code lines in 2 minutes. And he has shown his interface. And I was like, okay, we all were doing this exercise last year or maybe 2 years ago, but usually it should be 200 code lines. What about 600 more? What the hell is going on in that piece of code? How to check? You see? Such kind of smells and how to set up them properly. That's the task for AI governance that I'm referring to. And of course, corresponding integrated security checks, that you're not selling your PI data, as simple as that, and testing and validation. So all these evals that integrate actually kind of simplified regression into your flow. And you're like, okay, my AI developer is still producing kind of valid results. That's about AI governance. So I propose to switch the story from bureaucracy. It wouldn't help us. I'm sorry, it wouldn't help us. Any amount of documents wouldn't help us in new reality. But if at least we would combine our favorite and beloved testing story and this AI governance, potentially we can somehow survive in this reality. What do you think?
I have to say this. I now understand how you interpret the terms. I would object to one thing, that governance is bureaucracy, because governance is exactly the economical decision-making framework designing risk appetites from which managers can think about risk register, from which developers and testers can think about controls. For instance, controls in terms of automated testing, manual testing, human in the loop, observability. Everything you call AI governance is in standard called just controls. But let's remove the terms discussion from our context window and get back to what you were saying in terms of risks imposed by AI and controls, or how you call it, AI governance, which can help us mitigate those risks. This topic is one of my favorite ones, because I've studied and researched this topic for quite a bit, and I've seen exactly the stories that well, not exactly these stories, but pretty much similar stories, where developers were doing something they thought it was good, and yet they did not possess enough information, not only about the technicalities on how it should be done, your proverbial 200 versus 800 lines, but also about whether they are doing the right thing, whether you actually wanted them to build this Tetris, or maybe you wanted a snake game from them, but they still built Tetris. And that risk now is quite significant with AI, because we all know that AI will simply build. It will never say, "Hey, Vitaly, I don't understand what you said. Give me more instructions." It will just go and build Tetris, even if I thought I needed a snake game. So, in my opinion, what you're saying is very important, that before AI, we could somehow cope with just testing what developers built, because we knew the requirements. We as testers knew the requirements. We could get them. We knew what developers were doing. The amount of code was, well, measurable, bearable, right? And developers, actually, it took them some time to build it, so we weren't pressed for time so much. Our queue of work wasn't so huge. So then we could somehow cope with the amount of code. Now, with AI, we cannot. We cannot know if developers actually understood the task right, because developers mostly pass the task to Claude or Codex. And Codex or Claude just builds the task. We cannot know for sure if this task needs 800 lines or 200 lines, because you were lucky, you knew that Tetris game actually needed just a little amount of lines, not a huge one. So we don't know why, we don't know how, but we somehow need to test it and verify that it actually makes sense to build and deploy to production. And I would say that your point on shifting right to observability is one of the biggest one, because if we can somehow connect observability signals to requirements and interpolate from requirements that actually this is what we wanted on production. Dear product manager, can you tell us what metrics in terms of features you would like to see on production? And then build observability for these metrics. Because that would imply, if we see, say, a product manager says, I want users to open this new section of the website twice a day, and we're seeing on production that this doesn't happen, it's a clear signal that developers, the whole development process, did something wrong. So we even don't need to know how the code actually worked, but this signal allows us to see that the goals, the business goals that the product manager wanted, are not achieved at all. That's one thing. Another thing would be, in my opinion, that works in my opinion really well, is shifting ultra left. I'm not even sure how to call it, where we as testers build tests, BDD, whatever, any type of tests, right from requirements. And then we try to run those tests on what developers produced. Most of them will fail, but we can ask our fellow LLMs to figure out why they're failing. So we can use LLM power to see. So we build tests from requirements. And if those tests do not run for the code the developers have written, why is it, are they not executing? This is hard, but this, I think, would be another way to validate whether developers build the right thing and build the right thing in the right way.
Yeah, that's an interesting point of view. And now we see that governments can mean different things for different people, for different organizations in different contexts. And once we start talking about policies, about technical controls, about testing, security, architecture, risk, and kind of starting to mix many different roles in this process, then I see that there is a danger here, because when everybody owns this part of the problem, or when everybody owns different parts of the problem, sometimes nobody actually owns the final decision, the final risk assessment. And what I'm wondering, Marina, what do you think, what belongs to developers, to testers, to system architects, to higher level management? Like, kind of, where should teams be able to act independently without waiting for central decision, and how they should decide, okay, this is the part we can kind of proceed on our own?
That's really great. I was thinking, when you were asking the question, I was thinking like what we mean when we say absolutely independent. Because we see there is at least one big piece of puzzle that should be solved. Yeah, and then we can talk about all these independent solutions and so on and so on. So Vitaly mentioned about ultra left and ultra right shift. Absolutely great. What is it? The devil is always in the details. In order to create great mechanism on the left side, great test cases, we need to understand the product. We need to understand business domain. In order to create wonderful observability, we need one additional thing, not only measurable outcomes that we would like to have, but also technical part of the story that was never previously expected, for example, from testers. Yeah, because from testing point of view, we can say, on our own, or together with product owners or business analysts, what can we call good result. But right now, we also need to say about side effects. What is bad from side effects? Why I was mentioning these API calls? Because, for example, if we were measuring it in advance, in my example with Jira, we were capable to notice that something is wrong, that the system is pinging. Jira, in the cases where we don't need these calls, so that's about the side effects. So about roles, let's play and think out loud. And I started to talk about missing piece of puzzle. Requirements. Requirements always were crucial for software development. If we were capable to explain what we want, delivery cycle was short. If we were not capable to do it, circles of rework. So let's be transparent here. That was always a problem. Right now with AI, last month I have heard the terminology I have never heard before. So testing team was checking the results of the AI generated code. Can you imagine something like for 100 of test cases, you produce 105 or 107 bugs? The defect density is incredible. But then you take a look and you see in requirement, you have such wording on some screenshot. In the result, you have quite a little bit different. Can we live with it? Sometimes, yes. But that's exactly, we are losing our foundation. We cannot rely even on requirements. And as a tester, you're in a very tricky zone because from one point of view, you understand that it's not quite a problem, but still you need to raise it. Time-consuming exercise. You need to ping someone from business to have this, yes, we can go with it. That is why your question about roles is a very, very, very tricky. Let's imagine true full stack engineers. When you understand business domain, what you are doing, you understand the technology. Are you capable to deal with this new reality and build corresponding AI governance, operational governance? Yes. But for the last 20 years, we were doing absolutely different things. We were slicing specialities. You're a front-end developer. You're a back-end developer. You're an automation tester. Here, you're a manual tester. You're a manual tester who can check APIs and so on and so on. You understand the problem, what I'm talking about. Right now, either you see big picture and you can deal with it, or you're in positions that you try to touch elephant in the room. And now you would be stressed by too huge level of uncertainty. That is why, yes, I'm talking about some specialties that we actually need. So tester need to understand business domain. Then we can rely on validation mechanism provided by this tester on the left part, something generated from requirement, and on the right side, what is good enough. Otherwise, who can do it? Business analysts and product owners. I'm not talking about technical business analysts, guys that are just rewriting some business information in some user stories. Sorry, it should be done by AI agent. Let's keep human here. But again, these people, they have lack of technical knowledge. They cannot help us with our observability stuff. The same story with developers. So my answer for now, despite ideal picture, we need to have a realistic picture. It's always combination. In every point, we have at least two roles. So tester plus BA, tester plus someone like you say, solution architect for technical stuff, or tester plus automation tester. Just we need to return back to proper engineering. I'm sorry. We need to dive deeper into business domain and understand it. We cannot separate, in my reality right now, development from business logic. Otherwise, we just don't understand. So Vitaly was absolutely right. So AI wouldn't say, oh, I don't have enough information. I would just generate something. And this balance, so if you are good in this combination, then you can do it fast and cost efficient, so economical frameworks. If you more people you need in this room to have this consolidated story, more expensive, longer delivery cycle. So can we actually work in autonomous way? Maria, I assume that despite the fact that I would like to say yes, my reality says that. So for some startups, some exceptions definitely, but if we talk about IT in scale, we were doing other things for the last decades. And right now we need somehow to deal with it. So compile, return back to the normal. And come on, if we talk about risks, for example, the third level in our building, to think about risks, business risks, technical risks. So security items. So starting this point, already we understand about combinations. So do we need some new skill like, let me call it AI governor? This is full stack and business, yes. Should it be expensive? It would cost like a fortune because you're buying unicorns. Can we develop unicorns? Yes, we can, because we have developed at some moment quality architects and they are unicorns. So we have this experience. Do we have them right now in scale? The answer is as big now as possible. So maybe I have disappointed you with such an answer, but I'm sorry. Right now it's a teamwork, but you need this, at least seat of this QA governor who would own the process, who would grab and who would understand that we are strong in business. We need someone to answer this question, because I don't believe in joint responsibility and accountability. It should be one person decision who is making this sign off.
I would jump in quickly here, Maria, really quickly. I would completely disagree. First, I would completely agree that we need proper engineering, but I would completely disagree with the fact that, with the statement that autonomy is impossible. Team autonomy is extremely easy. Product autonomy is extremely easy. Roles are easy, and uncertainty management is easy too. That's exactly how it is defined in 3 governance standards. As I've said, governance body defines risk appetites. Like, for instance, in Boeing, once there was a story that when Boeing was still building good airplanes, there was a story. Management saw that engineering, it takes them like ages to make any decision, and they wanted to cut on weight of each airplane. So they said, dear engineers, $300 costs 1 kilogram of weight. If you can buy a saving of 1 kilogram of weight within $300, you go and do it. So basically, they gave them the economic decision-making framework so that engineers could make autonomous decisions within teams to save weight, to gain economical advantage for the whole company. That's exactly how governance works. Governance defines economical decision-making framework for the autonomous teams to then go and apply their risk register using those risk appetites. And then within this risk register, define who does what. So roles are extremely easy. You can have a unicorn in the team. You can have a combination of people within the team if they provide you enough competence to do development, to do testing, to do risk analysis, to do monitoring. That's exactly everything that you need from them. For instance, teams can implement any controls or practices which allow them to follow the governance policies. Say they find that pair programming reduces their costs and risks compared to code reviews that you mentioned. They can implement them if implementing pair programming instead of code reviews costs less than the risk appetite they have. Or they find that working in smaller iterations without a business analyst, but working directly with a product manager, reduces their risk exposure and allows them to control risks within the defined risk appetite. They go and do it autonomously because they are given the framework, they are given the tool to decide on that. If they find that requirements are bad and we need to change how they're defined and we need to slap our product managers, retrain them, they can do it as well. If all this works within the budgets, the governance policies that are defined by the governance body. It's very easy to do. It's not a burden. It's an economical decision-making framework given to teams to make them autonomous in their engineering decisions. I'm done.
Super, Vitaly. Let me, so why do you disagree? Because that's exactly when Masha was asking the question, she was asking about autonomy of roles, and I say that it should be team. And right now you talk about team autonomy. So you switch a little bit the topic. I'm absolutely on the same page with you that we can talk about autonomous teams, but not autonomous roles. Then we're on the same page because
absolutely yes, autonomous roles impossible. We need competence.
That is why I was competency combining them. Team, yes. Roles in new reality, previously tester could be kind of autonomous, or developer. I'm sorry, in all times and sometimes even in current reality, we had that waterfall standards, and it was about roles autonomy. We can consider so, but right now it's about teams. And yes, if we have this task for team to optimize and so on, we can talk about factories. Yes, but roles and boundaries between the roles right now are so vague that we have absolutely new understanding and we need to reshuffle. You cannot just sit and do like, I am an automation tester, prepare for me some manual script, I automate it as it was before. No way. But team, yes, completely.
That's super interesting. I see that we have a very challenging future before us. And I think that many people listening to this episode are probably a bit lost in the wild, but they still have a few ideas. And I think many of them don't have separate AI governance departments or a large program to produce unicorn AI governance architects and so on. And so they may simply have developers or testers starting to use coding agents, AI supported SDLC, and so on. And so let's just make this very concrete to wrap up our discussion. Vitaly, Marina, what is one control or practical advice a team could introduce without creating a large overhead, large governance process in their teams to still support AI introduction in a more or less safe manner?
Wow, I really like your safe manner because I was thinking the main idea is at least to make it safe. And what does it mean to make it safe? You need to have possibility to stop it in time. Yeah. So risks, validate the risks, and build kill switch protocol. So some items, if you cross the red line, you need to have mechanism to escalate and to stop. That's your starting point. Yeah, till organization would build all these wonderful economical frameworks and so on. It would take time. But in the day of today, you need to have your bottom to stop. So if something would be wrong at 2 a.m., you need to have a mechanism to stop the situation. And that's really good start because you would need to think, what are the risks? What is the blast radius? What should I measure? But it's a good small beginning to think about side effects and not only added value, but potential losses. And it would make you as a great specialist because finally you would think out of box.
I totally support what Marina is saying. I would say that thinking about money or risks or exposure or damage control or everything around this topic is the best step for any engineer, not even tester, but any engineer. And safe stopping procedures or measuring what matters, these might come as the next steps. But thinking, what are we doing and why are we doing? What are we trying to achieve with this product? Are we then actually achieving this? These are very vague questions, but I would never recommend exact answers to them because people have to figure it out for themselves for their product. Marina mentioned Tetris game. Very low risk, right? I mean, if my kid can't play Tetris, well, I mean, nobody dies, right? But medical device, completely different story.
Yes, Marina, Vitaly, thank you very much for joining this intense and very fruitful discussion. And before we close, I'd like to come back to the tension we've started with. AI is now capable to produce a lot of code, to produce products and so on. And it can make decisions that only humans could do in the past. But however, AI cannot take the responsibility. It cannot. Only humans can. So I think we need to continue this discussion, and we're welcoming you, everyone who listens to this episode, to join in and to comment in this thread that we've started on video quality, and we'll drop the link to this inquiry so that you can follow the thread and add your own take on it. And we would actually love to hear from you and See you on the next episode. That was it for this time. And thank you for listening. And until next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marina.
Thank you.